it's been just over 2 months since the tragedy at Parkland, and it appears the surviving victims and their families have not lost their momentum in advocacy and demanding answers about what happened.
3 parents whose kids were killed are now serving on a panel for that exact purpose, and today they went back to what still remains of a crime scene.
Joining us right now is Dr. Dara Bushman. She's a licensed clinical psychologist based here in South Florida, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
What's your sense of how the parents can use this commission and the work it's doing to unravel what happened, how the parents can use it to deal with their grief?
Well, I think the way that they're dealing with their grief altogether, I have so much respect and admiration for these parents as a whole, right? When something like this could happen, most parents would just curl up, right, literally as a parent die, right? And these parents have chosen, you know, I don't even know if it's that they've chosen, they feel that there is no other choice but to do what they are doing and continuing forward to protect their children along with other children and make sure that this does not happen for anybody else.
And unfortunately, maybe not so much school shootings, but there have been other shootings that have targeted multiple people since this tragedy. So how do you protect these people from reliving this nightmare every time a shooting happens or every time some other kind of tragedy happens like this?
I think it's very much staying grounded within your family, staying focused on what gratitudes are, recognizing that things are happening, and also acknowledging that people may be feeling a certain way due to these other events that are happening, and seeing where our kids are at with it, asking them questions, connecting with them, communicating, respecting how they're feeling, and also continuing with them with their everyday lives and their functions and their hobbies and their activities.
You mentioned the kids, so let's talk about them, because of course there's a group of them that has been so vocal out there, leading the way when it comes to advocating against gun violence and asking for more sensible gun control measures. But I imagine that there are other kids who are probably dealing with this more internally, who have not put themselves out there the way that group has. Is that a problem if they're not talking about things or they're not out there?
Well, keeping in mind everybody is going to handle and go through a situation like this differently by individuality, right? What works for one child, even in your own home, you can have 2 children who have been through different experiences and their perspective of it is different. So I do have concern for some children as they're quiet, because there's a lot of attention and focus and help being offered to those children who are externally and outwardly expressing concerns or having challenges with everything that's going on. And there is a very quiet population, and this is affecting so many people, right? With social media and well, television, everybody is affected. There's nobody who is unaffected by these events.
Well, let's talk about the long haul for these families, because not only do we have these shootings, we have the commission, and then we have the trial that's going to come up, or whatever happens, you know, in the legal process. How do the victims' families prepare for that?
Continuing to talk about it, assessing where each child is, where each family member is. As parents, we have a very big job in this, a very, very big job, and that is we set the tone. So as parents, leaders of our families, members of our community, it really is up to us to set the tone and model to our children what it is that we want and what we would like to get from all of this, and how we would like to see things continue peacefully in our communities.
So there's the working through the tragedy that's already happened, but there's also that foundation of security that's been completely shaken for so many people. How do we make kids feel safe going into the future?
I think honoring the fact that there has been some things that have shaken them up, right? Because I think often we just are on to the next thing and say, well, we shouldn't feel this or we shouldn't feel that. We should definitely acknowledge it, communicate, tell where our kids are at. That's what we do as parents and adults, is find out where children are at, adolescents, teenagers, and talk with them at their level and explain it in a way to them that makes sense.
Dr. Dara Bushman, such great information. Clinical psychologist based here in South Florida. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you.